Hello and welcome to DFS Saturdays. I'm here with Tony. Say what's up, Tony.
What's up, guys?
And basically, what we're gonna do every Saturday night for you is just run over our favorite DFS plays, help you guys in that daily fantasy. I actually personally wasn't a huge daily fantasy guy until last year. It is really fun, especially if your season long isn't turning out so well like mine wasn't last year. It's nice to win some weeks, and you really basically you get to play the guys you want to play. If you have a feeling about Mahomes going off one week and you don't have any Mahomes in any leagues, you can play him in DFS. I think it's a nice complement to season long fantasy, and there's some advice out there, but I think we could offer something new. I think Tony and I both play very well. I think we both usually play double ups and multipliers, right?
Yeah, I usually play the double ups. They're the most popular thing I play.
Yeah, so double ups, the way it works, if you guys are new to DFS, we'll just go over it really quick. Double ups, basically the top, 40-45% of people double their money. Multipliers is usually the top 10 to 30% triple to quadruple their money. So we're not really giving any advice for those millionaire makers. I mean, there's a reason it's a millionaire maker. One person wins, and there's really no advice we could give you to help you with that, in my opinion. So this is more of how to get the best lineup you can for these kind of competitions. We're going to give our lockdown favorite pick at each position, and then we're going to go over 3 to 4 steals overall, maybe to pad your lineup with those cheaper players that we think are going to have good floors or have a very high ceiling. So first, I'll let Tony take it off. We're going to start with quarterbacks. Who'd you select for your quarterback?
My quarterback's Dak Prescott this week. He's at $6,300 playing the Washington Redskins. It's an away game, but the way Washington's defense just gave up a lot of points to Carson Wentz last week, and the way the Cowboys offense looked last week, he seems like a pretty safe middle of the road pick, especially when you look at the higher up quarterbacks. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth quarterback on the list. So I think he's pretty safe to get you a solid outing from your quarterback.
Yeah, I like Dak this week. He wasn't really on my short list of quarterbacks, but I think he's a good play. I definitely do. If he fits into your lineup at 6,300, it's definitely not going to be a run fest with Zeke. I think Washington hangs in the game just enough that Dak is able to kind of do what he did last week. And last week he did against the Giants, who aren't a great team. And it's not like it was a close game, and he still had 4 TDs, 405 yards. That offense just looks really good. I think Dak's a good pick. I went with my boy Roethlisberger. I have to scroll down here because he's only at 5,800. And the big thing with Roethlisberger is, of course, he had a bad week 1. But he's playing against Seattle, and Seattle last week got torched at home by Andy freaking Dalton. So I think Roethlisberger not only is going to be a safe play at home with that offense in a game that's going to be close, but he's also going up against a defense that's not good against the pass. And despite they're not going to pass as much as they did last year, but I think that offense has shown sometimes they fall in the trap of pass. I think it's really going to help you in DFS. I mean, at 5,800, I would take Roethlisberger, even if they're the same price, probably above Dak. They would be very similar to me, but the fact he's $500 cheaper, I have him in a lot of my lineups. So next with running back, Tony, go ahead with your pick.
So my pick this week is Austin Eckler, and they're playing the Detroit Lions. He is currently at the price of $6,100. I think he's a pretty solid pick. I mean, he had an amazing game last week. The Detroit Lions could not stop David Johnson, and I think just the Chargers offense, I think, is honestly better than the Cardinals offense, and it's going to run through Austin Eckler this week, so he's just going to go off, especially at the price he's at compared to a lot of the other higher priced running backs. He has definitely the potential to be the RB1 again this week.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even without the touchdowns, I think he's going to get you 20 points this week. I just don't see a world where he doesn't, and definitely has that same potential from last week. My pick is definitely not a cheap option this week, but he's a guy I'm putting in a lot of lineups, and I'm finding room to fit in his salary, and I think Tony agrees with me on this one. It's Alvin Kamara against the Rams. The Rams destroyed by Christian McCaffrey. Looking at that week 1, their defense really didn't look good, in my opinion. And personally, I think Kamara is better than McCaffrey. And I think Sean Payton's going to watch that film and look how McCaffrey is utilized and find even better utilization for Kamara. I think this is going to be a 40-point week for Kamara. I'm glad go ahead.
Just to add on to that, the Saints just have better offensive weapons than the Panthers, so they're not going to be able to do anything to really stop Kamara coming out of the backfield, because if they do try to do that, Michael Thomas is just going to go off on them, and Ted Ginn as a deep threat compared to what Carolina had to work with a Cam that was basically broken.
Exactly.
So, if there's any running back to compare Christian McCaffrey to, it is definitely Kamara. They're very, very similar backs, so I don't see why they wouldn't put up similar numbers.
Exactly, and you guys know what Christian McCaffrey did last week. So this week, I think you should usually, in my opinion, especially if you're playing double ups, try and fit in one of those, top running backs that you think is going to have a top 3 week. And I don't think it's going to be top 3. I just don't see a world where Kamara doesn't become the RB1 this week. I really believe in it. Spend that 8,200. His floor, I think his absolute floor is what he did last week against Houston, where he didn't get the touchdowns. He still got the work, but against the Rams, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I want to add that in because I think every Rams game this season is going to be high-scoring. New Orleans, Rams, locking Kamara. So, moving on to the wide receiver position, Tony's going with the man, the Jesus of fantasy football, Josh Gordon.
Yeah, I think just watching the way the Miami Dolphins were exploited last week, there's no way that Josh Gordon doesn't have at least 100 yards and a touchdown this week.
Are you?
And he's only sitting at 5,800, which is a pretty solid price.
Are you worried at all of Antonio Brown coming in and basically getting the deep balls, just kind of stealing them away from Josh Gordon this week?
Yes and no. The way Josh Gordon plays too, he is also a yards after the catch type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes off on a 10-yard hitch or something and just runs all the way.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick is not a guy who's going to let up. So if they're destroying Miami, I wouldn't be worried for Josh Gordon scoring less points. They're still going to throw the ball. They're a team that will put 60 up on you with their starters out there. So personally, I am a little worried. I went back and actually looked when Josh Gordon joined the Patriots. What was his snap count week 1? It was 25%. He had 2 catches for 40 yards on 2 targets. I kind of expect the same thing from Antonio Brown, so I don't mind playing Josh Gordon. If you're playing a double up and you really want to play it safe, maybe not put him in there. Maybe if you're putting 2 multiplier lineups, put him in one of them, because they're 100% is a world where he gets 150, basically what Hollywood Brown did without a problem. I think Josh Gordon's a better wide receiver. He's more talented, and this New England offense is even more talented than the Ravens. So this is going to be a bloodbath, and you want a piece of that in Josh Gordon. At 5,800 is a perfect guy to go after. For my wide receiver this week, I'm going for the same offense as my quarterback, and I'm going with another guy who's a little bit more expensive in Juju Smith-Schuster. So another one where if you're looking at one of those top-end wide receivers that you want to lock in, I think Juju just has a monster week. There's nobody on Seattle that can guard him. There really isn't. I think he has, again, a Sammy Watkins kind of week, and what I'm doing in a lot of my drafts, and it is risky to kind of do this in multiple lineups, but stacking Roethlisberger and Juju, I have a feeling they're going off. I'm very confident in that stack. Stop me if you think I'm wrong, Tony. Do you think there's any way Juju gets stopped by Seattle and doesn't have a good week?
No, the only way I could see that happening is they just get up by a whole bunch and they just run the ball into the ground super early. But I think Seattle's a good enough team to keep that game competitive while Juju just goes off all night.
Exactly. So again, I have 2 expensive picks in here, but the rest of my guys, including my steals, are obviously going to all be cheap. I am telling you about these picks, though, because I think when you want to spend big money on a couple players, obviously you can't just go with all steals. Kamara and Juju, in my opinion, are those two lockdown, go for him guys. So moving on to tight end, a guy I didn't really think about that Tony's going to bring up. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, I have Vernon Davis at 3,200. I think he's going to be a pretty solid pick. Evan Ingram did really well against the Dallas Cowboys defense, so I don't see why, with Jordan Reed already declared out, he doesn't become one of the main targets in that offense again for one more week.
I mean, and that hurdle was incredible. That was one of the craziest hurdles I've seen in the NFL. Besides,
35 years old, by the way.
Yeah. Jerome Simpson's, backflip was pretty cool. Reggie Bush had a cool one, but that was just ridiculous. I like Vernon Davis. My tight end pick, shout out to Darren Waller. I don't think we're going to mention him in the steals, so he's a good pick at 3,300. But Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson, going up against the Chargers, I think Detroit's going to have to throw the ball. They're going to be down in this game. I don't think their defense can stop the Chargers. And I don't think the Chargers are really going to stop Hawkinson, personally. Detroit has some good threats with Amendola, Galladay, Jones. Hawkinson's kind of left open there. He showed in week 1 he's just a good receiving tight end. He's a good overall tight end. There's a reason he went 9 overall in the draft. At $3,000, it's a great tight end play, and it leaves you a lot of money. You don't have to worry about spending big at the tight end position this week, I don't think, unless you want to go after Kelsey or someone like that. Just go after a guy like Waller, Vernon Davis, Hawkinson. Those are 3 guys that they're cheap, they're going to get points, and there's a chance that they go off. So we'll go over Tony's steals first if you want to talk about them a bit each.
The first steal on my list is Chris Thompson. With guys going to the IR, being able to get one of the best passing down running backs, that's definitely going to get more work than just the passing down at this point, with only him and Adrian Peterson really going to be the ones to carry the load out of the backfield. He is at, 3,900, which is ridiculously cheap. And the way Barkley ran against that defense, I don't see a world where the Redskins don't try to do the same thing and run the ball a lot.
Yeah, I love Chris Thompson. While the game's probably going to be more competitive than maybe some people think, similar to the Philadelphia game, there's going to be a point where they're behind and Chris Thompson's in there for every down. He's a good floor play, especially at 3,900 if you're going for a lot of stars, a guy to put in there. And I think this next guy you're about to talk about is the same exact thing. I think he might have a humongous week.
Yeah, my next pick is Josh Jacobs at 4,700. They're playing against the Chiefs, and he's pretty much a RB1 in 12-team leagues this season. So being able to get an RB1 at 4,700 just because of the timing of when these prices came out, he's definitely super chalky, but chalk really doesn't matter when you're doing double ups. So he's probably going to be one of the staples on your team that's going to allow you to buy a lot of these other super expensive guys.
Yeah, for sure. I really like it. I don't think Kansas City does what they did to Jacksonville in the way of just stopping Fournette, because Fournette's not a pass catcher. I think Jacobs can catch out of the backfield, and I think he's going to break a couple good runs off that. It's not a very good Kansas City defense. It's not like their front seven's incredible. The only reason Jacksonville went away from it is Fournette was just not playing well, and then they were behind by so many points because it's Kansas City.
Exactly.
And last one.
Yeah, my last pick, also from the Washington Redskins, is going to be Adrian Peterson at 3,400. I mean, anytime you get these super valuable running backs under $4,000 that are going to be able to get touches consistently, it just opens so much up. I mean, you could stack like a Kamara and a Juju Smith-Schuster in your lineup by being able to plug in a Chris Thompson or an Adrian Peterson in your lineup. And like Matt said, this game isn't going to be a blowout. It's a divisional game. It's going to be close. He's going to get work, definitely going to get the goal line carries. So if they are in the red zone, there is a chance he falls in for a net.
Yeah, and not to mention he's going to be running pissed off being a healthy scratch last week. Peterson is not a guy that you want to piss off. He runs angry, and even at his age, he can still run angry and run effectively. So, starting with my steals, first one is Devin Singletary, 4,200. I think this is maybe not such a good 50-50 play, but a good multiplier play. I don't think a lot of people are thinking Singletary. I don't think the Giants' front seven is particularly good. And talk about efficiency. 4 attempts, 70 yards, and 5... Now, in the air, not super efficient, but 5 receptions, 28 yards. He's gained use in the pass game. He had a snap percentage of 50%. And he just looked incredible on the ground. So I think at 4,200, he's a really good play in your flex. I think he actually does have a pretty solid floor, but he's a guy at 4,200 that, again, I don't think a lot of people are playing him, so he's going to be a very good play for multipliers. To just throw in there, if he goes off, which I think with the passing work he gets, there's a very good chance. You add in a touchdown, all of a sudden you're getting 26, 27 points from your 4,200 running back. It allows you, like we said, to go after those expensive guys that you want to go after. And number 2, as Tony mentioned, the Raiders are not properly priced because these prices came out before their game because they played so late on Monday night. Tyrell Williams at 4,400 against the Chiefs. Now, this was very close to be my locked wide receiver, and that's even, over Juju. I think Tyrell Williams has almost just as good a week as Juju Smith-Schuster. They're playing Kansas City. They're going to have to pass the ball. He's the one guy that can catch on that offense and catch effectively. He did well against Denver's defense. Do you see any world where Tyrell at least doesn't have a good game, let alone the potential to just explode?
No, I think Tyrell Williams is amazing pick this week. I mean, the Jaguars wide receivers just went ham on the Kansas City Chiefs, so I don't see why Tyrell Williams can't do the same thing.
And this might be a hot take to some of you, but I think Derek Carr's a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew. So, I know. He's getting a lot of love right now. But anyway, Tyrell Williams, he's the guy, again, in a lot of my lineups. He should be at least 6,500, I think, if the prices came out correctly. They knew AB wasn't on the team. It seems really weird how cheap he is. So
and the way the Kansas City played it wasn't like you can expect that defense to not be giving up passing yardage.
Yeah, people were a little too harsh on this Raiders offense, I think. I've mentioned this in our podcast. John Gruden isn't a bad coach. Whatever people want to say, he was an analyst for a long time. He's funny. You can meme him, but he's a good offensive mind. He drew up some great plays last week. He's going to draw up some good plays against Kansas City's defense. Third steal, and this one I think is kind of one for Tony and I to go in together. It's John Ross at 4,600. He torched Seattle's defense. I don't think San Francisco is a better secondary. I mean, Richard Sherman's a better, coverage guy, but I think he's going to be on Tyler Boyd a lot of this game. I think John Ross is going to have another few explosive plays, and he's cheaper than Hollywood Brown. He's cheaper than John Brown, and I think he probably has the same potential as both those players and kind of the same floor. Maybe John Brown's a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, I really just like the amount of targets he got, and it's another one of those games where it's not going to be like a defensive showdown. It's not what I expect. Especially, I mean, yeah, the Niners defense looked good, but it was also Jameis coming from the East Coast to the West Coast. Not looking hot at all.
I'm pretty sure it was in Tampa Bay.
It was in Tampa Bay. Oops, edit that out. It was in Tampa? Oh, no, it might have been because they did play in I keep thinking Carolina was at home last week, but no, yeah. Anyway, I just really like the targets, and I think Andy Dalton's a better quarterback than Jameis Winston. So,
ooh, that's feisty. No, I agree. I like John Ross a lot. He's another guy that I'm actually, after this is immediately over, I'm putting him in a couple more lineups. And then last but not least, another one that I think Tony and I share, I actually wasn't thinking about him and kind of reminded of me how much I want to play him, is Terry McLaurin at 3,800. There's some stupid values this week. It's another week where I think, similar to week one, you can get a lot of really good players really cheap. So you can make some scary looking lineups, and you put a few of those in some multipliers, and I think you have a very good chance of, doubling your money that way with 4 lineups in 4 quadrupled multipliers. But anyway, Terry McLaurin, I think he was either most targeted or Trey Quinn slightly out-targeted him, but McLaurin's targets are worth a lot more than Quinn's. And Case Keenum didn't look terrible.
No, I mean, I think Scary Terry got, almost 100% of the snaps, so you can't really ask for much more there. And when you're on the field that much, you're going to get the ball every once in a while. So at 3,800 for a wide receiver that has 100-yard, 2-touchdown potential, why not?
Dallas's defense, too. It looked good against the Giants, but they actually, a lot of their wide receivers, who are not good, by the way, they're horrific, got pretty open. So I think Terry's not going to have a problem getting open. As long as Case gets him the ball, he's going to have another big week. I mean, the 26.5 fantasy points last week, look at that for another similar. So one last thing we're going to go over is we're each going to go over a lineup we've made. Tony, do you want to use the one you sent me in Discord?
Oh, yeah, I'll use the Discord lineup I made. It's pretty good. It's using all your salary. It is Derek Carr at 5,100, Austin Eckler at 6,100, Alvin Kamara at 8,200, Josh Gordon at 5,800, Michael Gallup at 5,600, Juju at 7,500, Darren Waller at 3,300, Kerryon Johnson at 5,700, and to wrap it up with the Broncos DST at 2,700.
Yeah, so I like that lineup. One thing we didn't go over was our defensive plays of the week. Tony went with the Broncos. I actually went with the Colts. I think they'll do a decent job against Tennessee. They did get kind of burnt in the run game, and Derrick Henry is going to be going against them, so it's a little scary, but I think at their price, they'll still get a turnover or two from Mariota. I mean, Mariota's Mariota. He's not very good, so I think at the $2,500 price tag, they're okay. So personally, the only things I'd change about your lineup, Tony, and I love everything up to Kerryon Johnson. I think Michael Gallup's going to be a great play this week. I don't know about. I'm a little worried about Kerryon against the Chargers.
I'm not with how Marlon Mack looked. I am not worried at all.
That's true. I mean, Marlon Mack got held down in the first half, but then it looked like they didn't know how to tackle. I'm almost worried about his utilization. Like, they just seem to like C.J. Anderson. I don't think Kerryon's a bad play. Personally, I just might, move the Broncos to the Colts, move Waller to Hawkinson, and then use the extra 500 to get a Chubb or someone around that range. But it's a very solid lineup, especially for the 50-50. I have quite a few lineups. Just going to go over one of my favorites. And that lineup's going to be the Ben Roethlisberger, Kamara, Eckler, Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, Juju Smith-Schuster, Darren Waller, Tariq Cohen, Colts lineup. So pretty similar to Tony. Instead of the Derek Carr Waller stack, I'm going with the Roethlisberger Juju stack, putting in Tyrell Williams in there. I really like Keenan Allen. He's another guy that wasn't mentioned. I think, with Mike Williams looking out or limited, Hunter Henry's gone, Melvin Gordon isn't there. Like, Keenan Allen's going to get a ton of targets. Great 50-50 play. Austin Eckler, Kamara, I think both of us have that. That is just such a solid duo. Running back. Then Tariq Cohen, I actually think he has a pretty decent week against this Denver defense. He didn't look particularly good, and I liked Cohen's usage. So at his price, I threw him in there. There's some other guys you could play if you're looking for maybe someone to have a bigger week, but I think Cohen has a decent chance of exploding, having a 20-25 point week.
Yeah, I like Cohen, especially if Anthony Miller continues to not be fully healthy. He's going to get those snaps out of the slot.
All right, so that's going to conclude this week, guys. Let us know some of your favorite plays. Let us know your lineup. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30 for the Sunday morning live stream. See you guys.
See you.